Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tangled Rights. Shane, what episode is this?
Episode 18.
Ooh,
We've been doing this now
way too long, and I'm
18
surprised
hours.
that all 12 of you are still here, but we're very grateful that you are. I'm Justin W. Wilson, Esquire.
Shane D. Cox, Esquire. We're not making jokes about still being. We're actually really good attorneys, and we like to keep our heads small because, as you might have seen, attorneys let their heads get big real quick, and their egos get in the way. We try to be down to earth. Maybe that's what you've seen and why we make jokes about ourselves.
Yes.
To keep ourselves humble.
Well, also, the thing is, like, I think a lot of attorneys think that their job or that they are more important than they are.
Yes.
And there are some attorneys that are doing what I would consider like the Lord's work, but the vast majority of attorneys are not that.
Robert Tellis. Can't get him off my mind.
So you love Robert Tellis, and you talk about him incessantly.
Well, just an example of a self-absorbed attorney, and I try to avoid being that, and that's just a prime example that's been in the news. Sorry.
No, the other thing is, like, what did your parents do? Your mom's a psychiatrist,
My mom is a mental therapist.
and your dad was in the Air Force.
My dad was an Air Force officer.
Okay, so not blue collar, but not blue collar.
Right.
Like blue collar adjacent. My dad was a rancher, and my mom,
Didn't hold a job too long.
not really. I remember when I was a kid, like when I was pretty little, right before she developed her issues, she worked on the road crew, like surveying. She had a good job. She was making a lot of money. Like
Construction related.
yeah, that was the year we got TV. I think I was 9 years old, and so that's how I was able to watch Dragon Ball Z, because we got DirecTV. I remember they asked me, they're like, do you want to go somewhere, or would you rather have, like, for a summer vacation or something? And it was to like Branson or something, which we always did anyway, but it was go Silver Dollar City. You know, it was a lot of fun. Fire in the Hole, shout out, super fun ride. Or do you want DirecTV? And I was like, I want DirecTV, because then I could watch Toonami and the Dragon Ball Z and all those cool shows. And so that's how I was able to get some of the pop culture that I was as a kid, because before that, all we had was a TV antenna with like channel 2, 6, 8, and 11 or something like that.
That's why you relate to the Hispanics so well, the love of Dragon Ball Z.
I didn't know that was a Hispanic thing, but
huge.
I don't know. I just thought it was because, like, we ate some of the same foods, and I like some of the same pop that they like.
Cheese in a tortilla, baby. Oh,
So good.
nice.
When I was a kid, I used to microwave cheese in the tortilla and just eat it. No, but what I was going to say is, like, very blue collar, right? So we're both regular people. And some lawyers, like
Me
legacy,
and you are regular people. Yeah.
Some legacy attorneys, it's like, you know, those kids in law school who they're like, my father, and it's just like, shit.
Well, I wasn't in the scene, like the legal scene. So even some of these names who were kids of judges and stuff, I didn't know that they were who they were until like now. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's why the professor was like, oh, this is your last name. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
so
That's the other edge of the sword, is you've got these people who have the name, and then people treat them special, and so then they feel special their whole life. It's like King Joffrey.
yeah.
And you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Moving
Anyway,
on.
that's why I think that we joke the way we do and we come off the way we do, is because, you know, we're normal dudes.
We like to stay humble, and
I am humble all the
even
time.
though, I mean, it's tough because we have to tell our clients that, yeah, we've done this before.
I do know what I'm doing most of the time.
Uniquely capable of doing this. We had a recent case where it involved like a perfect cross section of what we handle. It was kind of an injury case, had a criminal element to it because they were a victim of a crime, and real estate over a house. So this was like all our three perfect, practice areas.
The only one that it didn't touch on was bird law, which I'm an expert in. This is not legal advice. Consult your local attorney.
Yeah, give the spiel. So we are uniquely capable, and when we have clients who have issues that we just don't feel comfortable with, we have kind of a group of people who were members of certain communities that, hey, I practice in this law, so we say, okay, I have this guy who does this, like, go see him. Like, I'm sorry, it would take me a little longer. I'm not up to snuff right now, but I'll pass you off to the right person. So we're always willing to help you get to the right person and give free consultations to see, if it's something that we can help you with or not.
And there've been a lot of times that I've had to have that conversation, be like, hey, this sounds like it might be something I can do, but they get in, and I'm, smart enough to know that I don't know these things.
Yeah.
A, and B, I don't want to do some of them. Family law, looking at you. You couldn't pay me to do that. After that experience with that partition case?
Oh,
Well, it's still going on.
it's still ongoing. Yeah, any kind of family dispute.
Feelings, it turns out, are not great bedfellows with the law because they make everything that's already unpleasant and messy and lots of weird edges. They give it an even more difficult.
Probate litigation does that too.
Yep.
Because you're fighting with siblings or
Over
cousins.
money. And it's so funny. You always hear people like, well, they weren't around. And then as soon as the will came up, suddenly they're in the picture. Well, no shit.
they put them in the will.
They want hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever.
That's
Their dad's radio flyer wagon.
whoever passed, that was their decision.
Yep.
To keep them in the will. So, sorry, the law is the law, and your feelings are your feelings, and
Facts don't care about feelings.
they are separate things.
They are separate.
They are separate things a lot of the time. So
You know who says that?
I do. We're not talking about politics, or we try not to here.
Okay.
Let's talk about some of our topics, though.
Okay.
There's an update on a criminal case that we're looking forward to. We are recording this early September. It's not going to come out for a couple weeks because of some vacations for certain folks. But Sarah Boone, the suitcase suffocation case, she just picked up her 9th attorney.
Dang.
And she put an ad in the newspaper to get an attorney. Despite this being just a famous case in the area of Orlando, she put an ad
I would love to
in a
meet
newspaper.
Poor SOB that was like, you know what? This is a great idea.
He's going to be the
Ninth time's the charm.
He's going to be the attorney on the trial unless he figures out how bad she is and withdraws before then. But trial's going in October. So
Do we know what they're withdrawing for? Or is she just back?
she's crazy. Yeah, she's just super difficult. She thinks all attorneys are just idiots. She thinks that there's no way she's guilty of this.
She's half
She
right.
has no responsibility whatsoever. She seems like just a narcissist. And just, I had no role, in this murder at all. So she is representing herself.
What murder? He was the nicest guy around.
So
we should play that clip.
she had waived her right to an appointed attorney, but she can still get an attorney herself. And so this attorney, I'm not sure, but I know she put out the ad, a handwritten ad from jail that she wrote, and we'll put up the picture of this handwritten ad. Did get an attorney that came on, asked for a continuance because this attorney's trying to wrap, his head around the case. Judge said, no, we've pushed this back too much because attorney's getting on the case and asking for time. When it's your 9th.
Well, the thing is, you can't create your own conflict, right?
No.
So she did this, and so even though this new attorney has nothing to do with it, the defendant has to do with it, and so the judge is probably right in that instance. I don't think it's going to result in anything negative for the case from the prosecution standpoint. It's not like it's going to get overturned for an ineffective assistance of counsel claim for them saying, no, you have to go.
This judge has seemed very patient the entire time. I've watched some of the hearings, and he's doing a great job. I mean, you see some of these very difficult criminal defendants, and the judges just have to have just the patience of a saint in order to deal with them. And then the questions online come and say, why are they, bending over backwards to help these criminal defendants? Because the Constitution requires, they don't want to screw up. They don't want to jeopardize, anything and have this be another trial in the future. Because if it gets overturned and they say, no, you should have given them another chance. Because the Supreme Court doesn't see the daily stress of the judge dealing with this. And, I'm guessing when it's on the next day's calendar for the judge, he might not be able to sleep the night before, just tossing and turning, thinking of, oh, I'm going to be on TV again. And she's just going to say she didn't get this. I didn't get that. She's just going to make all the excuses under the sun. And
Got to deal with this.
but he just
case
just has to be just perfect. And we've talked about in some of our cases, we just feel like we have to be perfect despite the other side just goofing around and doing all these things. We have to just not be self-righteous about things, but
goofing around.
yeah,
That's so nice of you.
it's goofing around. Yeah, they just subpar attorney work, maybe.
Or they're just being obstreperous.
Yeah, yes, that word too. Whatever word it is that you said.
Difficult.
So
Like, well, it's vexatious litigation, right?
Yeah.
Their purpose is to just, circle the drain,
so
and just delay.
another thing on this delay, let's talk about this on Sarah Boone. She is filing a motion to dismiss based on violation of her speedy trial rights. I mentioned I mentioned this to you a little bit because under Florida law on a felony case, you have a right to, any case, any criminal case anywhere, you have a right to a speedy trial. And what that means sometimes is dictated by state law and could potentially be afoul of the Constitution. But usually
Here it's 60 days.
yeah, usually there's rules in place for a felony trial, and I think in her case it was even like 5 months, so a longer time frame. But she's saying my trial didn't go within 5 months, so
Yeah, because
you violated my speedy trial rights.
you
So
waived your right.
what doesn't she understand, Justin?
She doesn't understand that probably some time ago, like at her initial appearance, when she entered her not guilty plea, the judge would have said, all right, we have to set. Sorry. The judge would have said, we have to set your schedule, right? Your calendar call, your trial date, etc. Do you want to invoke or waive? And the lawyer would have turned to her and said, hey, we need to waive so we can actually mount a defense here. And she would have said, I'll waive. I would almost guarantee you that that occurred.
Yeah.
And so now that's not an indefinite waiving, right? That doesn't mean that the state can just kick it out 10 years and you're going to stay in custody.
Right.
It still is going to get set. And that's kind of part of the point, right? That's half the reason that the judge can't kick this last one.
Yeah.
It's like, look, we've waived this so many times. Yeah, sure, she's getting credit. So if she's ultimately found guilty, it's still good for her in the sense that she's in, county jail as opposed to prison.
Is jail better than prison? Who knows?
It depends on the state.
I don't know there.
There are some states where that is not the case. Louisiana, you end up in Angola. I can almost guarantee you that any county jail in like New Orleans is better than going to Angola, from what I've heard. It's never good there.
And so it's 175 days from the date of arrest, not even from arraignment for Florida on felonies.
Sure, but she waived that undoubtedly and doesn't understand that she did that.
So yeah, here in Nevada, you have 60 days from the date of your arraignment, right, to go to trial. If you invoke that right, it's case dependent for us. Sometimes the prosecutions has so much evidence by the time that we get on the case. So if you want us to have time to really look at the evidence and go through it, and we might need to get counter evidence to their evidence, and that takes time.
Yeah.
So case dependent, we might, try and get our clients to waive. We might try and invoke.
There have been times that I've invoked.
So invoking is saying, yes, I want a speedy trial. And then waiving is saying W-A-I-V-E, which we also sometimes actually W-A-V-E to signify that, is saying, I don't want a speedy trial. Give me some time.
Yes.
So it depends. Depends on the case. Sometimes there's evidence that just we need to look into.
Like we just did in that case that I had arraignment on Tuesday. The one with the gun case out of Mesquite.
Okay.
Remember we waived up on it because the offer was trash.
Let's get it sooner. Let's get it done.
We waived the speedy.
Yeah.
Just because we want to get it on a DA's desk who's going to take a look at it and maybe give us an offer. I mean, they got us dead to rights on that case, right? But the other reason to
unless
that Ninth Circuit decision comes down and then you can dismiss it.
Or you can set the law. You can take it up to the ninth. You can't take it to the ninth this way. You could take it to the Supreme Court after the Nevada Supreme Court.
I could.
Do it.
Whoa.
Let's get some rights.
Do I want to tangle my rights?
Let's tangle these rights.
I'd love some more gun rights. I love them.
Well, you're not a felon, so.
No, but if I
doesn't affect you.
If I was a felon.
Yeah, a non-violent felon.
Yeah. Like what
are the odds on you being a non-violent felon versus a violent felon?
Not good. If I'm going to get in trouble for something, it's going to be...
You're going to lose your gun rights.
Some road rage incident. I'm going to pop off to the wrong dude. He's going to do something dumb. I'm going to do something dumber. And then, hopefully I'm acting under a reasonable apprehension of imminent bodily harm or death.
The rights will be tangled.
So my rights are still good. Anyway, yeah, that case is a little nutty, and it's brave for that attorney to get on the way he did. But, she can't create her own conflict, so it shouldn't be a problem.
We will be watching that trial, and we're going to report back. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be insane. Yes.
No, you're right. It's going to be crazy. Speaking of crazy cases.
Yeah. Tell me about January 3rd, 2024. Important day for you?
Man, it was a crazy day for me. It was a good day. You happened to be in court that day.
I happened to come along with you to criminal court and
kind of see how we do things. And I was able to give you my briefcase because I had to leave court early.
Yes.
Which was, fortunately unfortunate, but whatever. That day in Judge Holthus's courtroom, District Court 18, 3F,
yes,
there was a sentencing that was going on.
Right after I had left.
Right after you'd left. Yeah, we were in the building like right before that. Mr. Almasi was the defense attorney.
Carrie Maxey, who was on our show before, was there.
Carrie was there. Jory was there. Let's see, who else was there? I saw Mr. Scow. He was the prosecutor.
Yep.
I thought I saw Pete Thunnell. I think he was in
yes.
there.
Yep.
There were a couple other people that I don't know, but several people that we know were in there, including Judge Holthus and Michael, her law clerk. And she went to sentence this guy. And the thing that I've noticed in sentencings, like, from the third person viewpoint, whenever I'm sitting there in the back listening to these attorneys make arguments, 'cause sometimes maybe it's something I want to make later, right? Like I'm trying to pick up on stuff that other people are doing right and notice things that are not landing and not do those things.
Yep.
It's the same reason I like to watch jury trials and stuff, is kind of see the way that people view things, and judges are people too. Well, anyway, Judge Holthus kind of hat tipped what was going to happen, that she wasn't buying this dude's
had a long criminal history.
He had a pretty big criminal history. And it's interesting because the way that they were positioned is the same way they're always positioned, which is to prevent things like this for people that are out of custody. So you have two benches, right? Prosecution side, defense side. Mm-hmm. And then you have the defense attorney on the outside of the defense side, and then the defendant out of custody on the inside. Meaning you'd have to go all the way around your defense attorney, between the two benches, around the little pulpit thing, and then to get to your judge, go over the bench, which this dude managed to do. But
2.5 feet is all it was.
It's a little higher than that, I think. It's about...
No, they measured it, yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
No.
The desk that we
I was
stand
standing...
at.
Oh, no, not the desk we stand at.
Yeah,
the bench.
That's 4 feet.
I was going to say, the bench is like...
They
right
measured
here.
it all in their opening.
Oh, okay.
This trial started. That's why we're talking about it.
Right.
But...
So what I think happened, based on what I heard from the audio, because they moved the cameras, right? The focus was more on the judge than on... I think he went over the...
He did, yes.
He went over his
That
table.
was in the opening. He went over his table, ran, and then jumped.
Sure.
Yep.
And all you can see is the Superman leap. And then you hear him cussing, saying something... I don't even know what he said.
That was you guys?
No,
that wasn't us.
No, we weren't. But so it was.
We
people.
had just left,
And that's the courtroom that I'm in a lot. So I was, we were there that day. Yeah.
So let's tell the listeners how close we were to being the attorney on that case.
Ugh. So the way that the Justice Court 2 track works is cases will randomly come in and they go to Justice Court 2. And I've explained this before, that Justice Court then is a court of limited jurisdiction that goes to District Court for felonies and gross misdemeanors. So in Justice Court 2, whenever you have a conflict case that the public defender can't take, there are 3 track attorneys. At the time, it was myself, Steve Altig, and Cesar Almasi. So I took over for Troiano, so that would have been my spot. So if he was my client, if he was Troiano's client, he would have been my client. So it was a 1 in 3 chance after it gets to JC2. But then I guess it's also a 50-50, right? Because it either goes to DC 18 or DC 4,
Yes.
which is crawl in 11A. But
She probably would have sensed him too. So
Yeah.
I would have guessed.
yeah,
but
at the same time. And then also we were in that courtroom anyway, because when we have regular hearing days,
we
we're
got a
in
lot. We're in her courtroom
one or the other
all the time.
But yeah, so we were like 50-50 shot, or sorry, a 33 shot of getting that case, and then within 30 minutes of being in the courtroom when it happened.
So it was thankfully not my day on there. That would have been.
Although I don't know if that would have been better for me, right? Because I'd like to think I wouldn't, you've seen me. When things happen, I react. I would like to think I would have just jumped on the guy. I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, he didn't go behind his attorney would have been on his left. He didn't go behind his attorney.
I don't care.
He went straight over
He had
the
to go over
table.
the bench.
So you would have had to run around. You would have gotten there
Maybe.
probably after he jumped and made
Whatever.
the leap.
Anyway, so he jumps, he attacks Holthus. From the video, you can see that he slams her into the wall. And from there, it gets really messy. You can't see what happens exactly. But when she was testifying today, we were watching when we were running around doing things. Had a hold of her hair, was punching her in the face, and then her law clerk, which that dude, man, I already talked to him about it because when I first saw this and everything, I know everybody was blowing up on him because he was all over the internet, but I was like, man, you just answered the question. What will I do? Will I react or will I not? And he did, and I think that's dope.
Yeah, he tried to jump in the way.
He tried to jump in the way, and then he was beating on the guy.
Well, part of the testimony too was these are family friends, like her family, the judge's family, and Lasso's dad. They know each other for a long time. So
okay.
She's known him since he was a kid.
It's different than just like a judge-clerk relationship.
Yeah.
Even though most judge-clerk relationships I've seen are pretty close.
Yeah, no, they get close, and
Because they work together a lot.
And he's been, there for a bit, and he's still the clerk.
Yeah.
Last I saw.
But he, did a great job, and then everybody else in the courtroom got on it. Jory went up and over and was grabbing a hold of the guy. About the only two people that I saw that didn't like really get in it. And at the time, by the time they got up there, it was Scow and Almasi, but that's just because everybody was already there. What were they going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, comes like a critical mass point where adding to it, the pile doesn't help.
So he eventually does get sentenced. They call off sentencing that day,
Correct.
reasonably so. A lot of injuries. There's blood, all over.
The marshal got his head split open.
One of the marshals slipped, fell, and hit his head, and split it open. And the other marshal hurt his shoulder, needed shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
So a lot of chaos. And then he does get sentenced, and it's the sentence that
she was going
to give anyway. He comes back, and then because he attacked a judge and all this other stuff, he picks up a ton of new charges. And so the trial, as we sit, and we're recording today on September 5th, it started September 4th yesterday. And so testimony began today, and the very first witness was Judge Holthus.
Yeah, and they showed the video.
And they showed the video a lot. So
I had some questions.
That's another one on court TV that, the public is free to watch. And so it'll be interesting. It's a unique case when there's a judge involved as the victim. And the charge now, he kind of pled to a lot of the charges because they're obvious. He did a battery. He did a battery on a protected person because she's a judge. She's a protected person. She's over the age of 60.
Right.
I think they said she's 62. We don't want to age her. We got to appear in front of her.
No, but we don't want
to call her old.
The reason that it matters in Nevada is that battery changes versus for certain circumstances. For example, if you batter a pregnant woman, instead of being a domestic battery, if she was your girlfriend or whatever, it's a DV on a pregnant person, which that goes from a misdemeanor to a felony. And the same thing here. If you batter an elderly person or a person over whatever the age prescribed by the Nevada legislature, then the penalty goes higher.
So the trial's only on attempt murder because afterwards, I guess, while he was in custody, he said, "I tried to kill a judge today," to some of the in custody police that were with him.
Corrections officers?
The jail corrections officers, yeah.
Okay.
So that's going to be attempt murder. Tell me about attempt murder and the elements that got to be met here.
Murder is the intentional killing of another human being with malice aforethought. Attempt is any act in furtherance of that crime, right? So attempt typically drops a level, right? So if something is an A, attempt will drop it to a B or a C to a D or whatever. I don't offhand know the level of attempt murder. I'm going to look it up real quick. But all you have to do to show attempt is show that they did an act in furtherance of the underlying crime. Here, if, let's say,
he did 220.
He did intend to kill her. Yeah, I see that. So it's the elements are that you intend to kill the victim, you took a step towards it, and the victim didn't die. So she's still alive, thank goodness. If he did intend to kill her, if he did say that, and that's what he actually meant, he took a step. He jumped across the bench and was bashing her head off a wall. She said when she was testifying there were clumps of her hair just kind of around the bench. I mean, the dude was, he was trying to hurt her for sure.
Yeah.
And without a statement like that, I don't know if you'd get attempt murder.
Right.
But you'd certainly get bat with substantial. Well,
yeah.
Maybe difficult on the substantial too, depending if she had a concussion. There's an argument to be made.
Yeah, and that might have been testified to now. I don't know.
Sure, I don't know. We missed some of that.
Thing.
But yeah, Cat B 2 to 20 instead of a Cat A like it would be. And so there are ways that you can get away with that. And that's if it's self-defense, you had no intention to kill, or you made no attempt to kill. But here, it's definitely not self-defense.
Yeah.
That would be such a strange argument that you're allowed to defend whenever they're going to send you to prison.
Well, the opening seems to focus on the fact that he did have some mental health issues.
Correct. I believe the testimony so far is that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar.
The scary part was he seemed very, about himself. He had a good mental state when he was trying to make an argument to defend himself. He was trying to say that he was in a better place mentally. I'm joining a union, the Teamsters union. I'm part of that now. I have a job in place. I'm on the right track. And so he just sounded like a normal person. And then he just flipped a switch when he didn't get what he wanted. The judge's exact quote was, "I just can't with that history." And she had the tone where it did sound like, I'm going to order you to prison. I just can't with that history.
Right.
And it sounded like the bailiff or the court marshal was getting behind him. Maybe, he could hear the handcuffs coming out because he was out of custody. So he's not shackled or anything.
Right.
And
he came there that day from wherever it was that he lives.
Yeah. And he had missed a hearing before, so there was a warrant.
And that's the whole thing. He would have been given the opportunity at probation if he would have just showed up. And that was one of the things that
was probably a huge difference maker for him.
Huge, massive. And that's the thing. So, I've had cases in front of Judge Holthus, and she's, if we're being fair, right, calling balls and strikes here, she's a judge who's a little bit probably tougher.
She was a prosecutor.
She's a tough judge.
Her whole career.
Tough judge.
Tougher than on certain
some
things, right? Every judge has their
everybody's got
specific
their thing.
Yeah.
Sure. But she has gone along with deals that she didn't. I mean, she obviously wanted to go along with the deal or she wouldn't have, right? The judge is the ultimate arbiter of sentencing. But at the same time, she's allowed me the opportunity to explain why. And she's allowed the prosecutor, situations, I think we might have talked about this one. The one where the guy had a assault with a deadly weapon with a knife. And that was the case that I had him on. And then before that, he had another assault with a deadly weapon. And the one that he went to prison on was an attempted murder with a deadly weapon. And all of them were knives. It was kind of his thing, right? But from that point, he had gotten sober. He'd straightened his life out. And this one at the end just happened to be a real bad situation that he got into because the people that he's trying to help, people that were like him before he got better, were like him, and they were causing problems. And this guy was basically spitting in his face with all the kindness he was giving him and causing problems for the other people who he was helping at a halfway house that the guy had created, right? So in that case, it's a probation deal on a gross misdemeanor, and she brings us up there, and she's like, okay, look, here's the reasons why I normally would not do this. Explain to me why I should. And she allowed us the opportunity to say that. So what I'm guessing is that something like that probably occurred beforehand, where she would have been like, okay, whatever, I'll give him probation if he does what he's supposed to do. But whenever you have a guilty plea agreement and a deal, and the state makes, no opposition to probation as the recommendation,
and then they're goofing off,
you still have to show up. If you don't show up, it immediately undercuts the deal, and the state retains the right to argue, which means in this case, it was a Category C felony, I think, right? Attempt bat with substantial bodily harm is a Category C. So that's a 12 to 48 month sentence.
Yeah.
The max is 19 to 48 because the max can never exceed more than 40% the minimum can never exceed 40% of the maximum. So all this dude would have had to do is show up. And I get that everybody's got stuff going on. You can be late. You don't have to be on time, but you have to be there.
Just
right?
don't.
And also don't get any
we tell our
charges.
clients don't miss, please. Just
Don't
be there.
miss and don't get any new charges.
Was that client Edward Scissorhands?
Edward Scissorhands?
Lots of knives.
Oh, got it. No,
Good one, Shane.
he was not
You're
Edward
so
Scissorhands. I do like Tim Burton movies, and Johnny Depp is a national treasure.
No, he's not National Treasure.
Yeah, he is. He's a great actor.
He's not in National Treasure. No,
He's a national treasure. He's not stealing the Declaration of Independence.
Declaration of Independence.
Nicolas Cage, The Bees. What movie is that?
What is that movie called?
Terrible, Nick. Awful.
What? I don't know what that movie.
He does so many good movies, but he does so many crap movies. It's literally 50-50. It's like he goes out, he's like, well, do I have acting skills today or not? I guess not. Oh, bees. It was Wicker Man.
Wicker Man. Yeah,
It was terrible.
Wicker
First
Man.
off, the CGI sucked. And then him just, the bees.
I'd be scared, dude.
What, of bees?
Yes. In like
But
a
if you
mask around
if you
your
hold
head.
still, they're not going to sting you.
That many though? Ugh.
They're not going to sting you. Just hold still. Try not to breathe or blink. Close your eyes.
So we'll be tracking that attempt murder case, and we'll probably
Yeah.
revisit and tell you guys how
It's-
it went. But
It's
don't attack judges, please.
don't attack anyone in the courthouse.
Luckily, it wasn't us.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to
Luckily,
be
it
there.
wasn't our case.
I'm glad it wasn't one of my clients. But she never seemed to hold it against the guy. She didn't seem to hold it against Almasi. So, sometimes there are just strange things that occur.
Yeah, we're in Vegas. Like,
Results you wouldn't expect. Sometimes.
is that a segue to something?
It is.
To what?
To Disney.
Oh gosh, we're gonna talk. We saw a lot of memes memes about Disney having a defense against a case. So
if Goofy kills you with a baseball bat, you consented to it. Just FYI.
no. Okay, so so there was a wrongful death case when
At South Park with the Jonas Brothers. Don't mess with my money. And I censored myself, Hannah, because Shane says that I'm not supposed to cuss anymore. Thanks for limiting me.
so taking away my fun.
Yeah, my freedom.
So a couple from Long Island, as they do, want to visit Disney World and have a fun time. So
Long Islanders like to go to Disney World?
I don't know, but hey, whatever. People
They
like
do.
to go.
Are
to
they the
Disney.
kind that have the little hats?
I don't know, dude.
Disney adults, they call them?
That's me. I am a Disney adult.
No, you're not.
I love Disneyland. Love you, wife.
You have a hat
I did buy one time. Yeah,
where you wear the ears?
yeah. I'm a good dad. I love my kids.
That's fine. They would be the ones that would wear them if you loved them, not
Yeah,
you.
they have
They're
some.
children. They're
like-
allowed to do that.
But
You
they
were a
like-
grown man.
All right, don't judge others.
Let's not ye be judged. Judge me by the amount of times I've worn mouse ears.
Just let me
Go ahead. I'll
let-
wait.
Let me enjoy things. Okay?
Go for
Let
it, dude.
Let me be a good dad.
I didn't say you couldn't be a good dad. I'm just asking you not to be a Disney adult around me.
Okay. I don't do it around you.
Good. I would never let you live it down.
judge you for your lifestyle. Just do it over there.
That's exactly the way it is. You be free over there, and I'll be free over here.
So there
Stop laughing.
is an accusation of wrongful death, a wrongful death suit on Disney property, not within Disney World, is my understanding, but just off property.
An accusation?
There's like, yeah, because
It did happen.
They haven't proved it in court,
Right, but
that's the cause. The
person is dead.
Whatever. So, a spouse is suing on behalf of their late spouse who died after being served food that they were allergic to at Disney. They asked, "Hey, does this contain peanuts?" They said,
oh,
"No,
one of those.
nothing whatsoever. No peanuts. We promise, no peanuts." They eat it, go into anaphylactic shock. My understanding,
Unless you've got epinephrine right then, there, and in a hurry, you are in some trouble.
And if you have that severe of
Yeah, it might not matter anyway.
yeah, I don't know if they carried it and it was too late. Details are kind of, there's one small piece of this that explodes onto the national scene
Oh, yeah.
because when you file a lawsuit, as this, widower did, Disney's going to bring their army of attorneys to defend this case, right? So,
Bought with Chinese money.
well, there's a lot of money there. Are we cutting that out?
Isn't Disney in bed with China? Isn't that like one of the things?
I don't know. Let's check our sources on that before we add this to the podcast.
All right. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
So big time attorney defense team comes, and we see these in cases, they come and they file a motion to dismiss. You file a complaint, they say, no, this case needs to go away. We have this motion to dismiss based on, these reasons. And part of it is what? What sources are Drudge Report?
No, this is utampa.dspacedirect.org. So it's the University of Tampa Institutional Repository Research Center. They did like I don't know, an analysis of where Disney's market shares went. And so The brand's success in China following the theme parks leaving the market to be one of the company's largest sources of international revenue.
Okay.
It's because I think they have 2 parks there.
They can open a park there. What's wrong with that?
Well, they just have a lot of money that they get from
Okay.
a lot of. And
wrong with that?
supposedly, Chinese companies own 50% of Disney.
Maybe. Maybe not. Who knows?
All right, whatever.
It's an American company. America.
Sure.
They own ESPN. Sure. So there's a death that they're saying was because of this food that was served on Disney property. So there's a motion to dismiss filed, and the U.S. Supreme Court has come out with some decisions recently about. Are we pausing?
Keep going, fuckhead.
What's going on?
I'm doing something that doesn't affect you.
The U.S. Supreme Court has come out with some decisions recently about arbitration clauses. So when you have a case against a big company and you might have signed a user agreement when you signed with that company, there might be an arbitration clause in there, which means that if you have a claim against this company, it's going to be subject to arbitration. And the U.S. Supreme Court has come out in kind of a series of recent decisions within the last 5 years and said, yep, those are binding. Like if you agree to arbitration, you got to go to arbitration.
Now, does it matter where you agree to arbitration?
So that's the question here. And I've faced this motion, and the judges say, hey, I'm bound by, the U.S. Supreme Court here. It has to be fair. It can't be just arbitrary. Hey, everything has to be arbitrated in front of this specific judge.
Does it seem to be fair?
It can't. Well, I'm just saying it's supposed to be. So the local judge can read into it and say,
And of course, if it's local to wherever Disneyland is, they're going to do exactly what's in Disneyland's interests.
Well, that's a whole, other question. There should be neutral arbitrators. And so when I had it, they said, hey, this is going to be an arbitrator selected under this group of arbitrators. Mm-hmm. And so I pushed back and said, if they get to decide who the arbitrator is, this isn't fair. So give me a panel of 3, let us both, cross off one, and we'll take the third. As long as they're randomly selected, that's a lot more fair.
Sure.
So there are wrinkles under there. Regardless, it's been found under the law that if you agree to this in the terms and conditions, you're bound by it.
You better be careful with those Apple updates, bud.
It doesn't mean that your case gets dismissed, outright. It just goes to another forum. It goes to a private arbitration. And most of the arbitrators that we have here are former judges. So they are people who've seen this before.
They know how it plays out
and
are able to articulate that.
It does limit costs for both sides, really, plaintiffs and defendants. But sometimes I think the judge kind of sees more in the middle than the polars that you can get from juries.
Correct.
So a jury could come back, 0 on a case more readily, or they could give you multi-millions.
Right.
More readily, I
You're
think.
not-
So
you're
the
not
judge kind of limits the exposure.
You're not going to end up with like an inflamed judge.
Yeah.
As an
Because they've
arbitrator
seen
who's-
stuff.
Yeah.
They've seen stuff, so they won't be as mad.
They've seen some stuff. And
They've
some
seen,
things.
oh yeah, I've seen somebody die from this before. Not that big of a deal. That's $2 million. His life's worth $2 million.
Yeah.
Whereas if you try it to a jury, they might think, wow, that could be me. Reptile, yeah, reptile. So they might respond, and my life's not just worth $2 million. If I'm putting myself in that seat.
Sure.
My
and
life's worth
that's what it's about.
$100 million.
It's about it's not about putting the plaintiff in front of the jury. It's about making the jury feel like they could be the plaintiff.
Yeah.
And that's how you get these big verdicts.
That's how they happen. So the motion to dismiss comes about, and part of the reasoning, part of the argument, and this isn't the entire argument, just part of it, but sometimes the news focuses in on a little piece, and then when you consume the news, you think that's all there is.
The headline,
The headline's not always the entire factual basis. What?
It's not everything.
Yeah, guys, think about things. Try to read news.
Don't
with a little bit of
Listen.
cynicism.
Listen. Don't ever critically think. Don't think for yourself.
So part of the argument is, yes, when you buy Disney tickets, as they had, there is an arbitration clause in there. But to bolster that argument, they also said, hey, wait, this guy signed up for a free trial of Disney Plus 5 years ago. So he also, consented to arbitration. So what you see on the news is, oh, they said because he consented, he signed up for Disney Plus.
No.
His case is dismissed and he can't bring a case at all. There's a lot more to it than that. This is just a tiny piece of the argument.
But the fact that they would, I don't know.
But the fact that they would make that outlandish argument.
Yeah.
We see outlandish arguments in cases all the time, but sometimes they're not newsworthy.
But it's silly to me because yes, park ticket, harm that comes from park, arbitration clause, sure. Disney Plus, arbitration clause, doesn't get you to dead by peanuts. Last time I checked, I don't think that
you went to a football game that ESPN was airing on the TV. You released us.
No. Yeah. So, and if they are giving peanuts, I want mine with my Disney Plus subscription to be honey roasted, please.
Those are delicious.
Hell yeah, they are.
Yes.
The honey roasted cashews.
Ooh, also good.
Shoo.
So this comes out and spawns a ton of memes, and it's a little anti-Disney, and you see Disney even takes a little hit on their stock after this, which is just hilarious because this is just one defense attorney's like, hey, let's see what else we can throw to try and get this case to arbitration.
As they do.
That's what they do. We see this.
That's their job.
All the time. They throw everything they can, and we do that in the criminal defense world. We throw...
No, I don't do that. I make reasonable... I can't even say it. Yeah, I do that.
We try whatever we can to try and get your case dismissed too, in a criminal sense, and that's the right the Constitution affords you. So
yeah, well, I mean, I don't try everything. There are things I could have done in the past that I don't do because they are unethical or illegal.
Sure.
But everything within the law and above board, absolutely.
So it's not like this is an.
Am I going to blame you getting drunk and smashing a car into somebody and then running away from the scene on anything other than you and your own choices? Yep. You're right, I am. Is it great? No. Does it work? Not always.
No. The Constitution affords you that right to make that argument.
Yeah.
Though,
so there have been a couple of organizations lately that have taken some hits due to their conduct or the things that are said with them. Another one is a little bit more close to us. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
Oh. Yeah.
They've been doing some bad things. As my buddy Johnny Ziarko from law school used to say about Canada.
One specific officer. One specific officer are we talking about?
We're talking about one specific officer, but it's an actual investigation right now. And we just had that DUI case that I got an essential dismissal on because the probable cause affidavit does not match up with the body cam.
Yeah, no.
And I can talk about that really briefly. The probable cause affidavit says that when the police officer is driving down Sunset, he sees my client's vehicle, and that my client's vehicle did not have a tag light on it, and that he had smoked out tail lights, which what that is like a covering that goes over the tail light for aesthetic purposes. But at a certain point, there's an amount of lumens that have to give off so that other people can see you. It becomes, a traffic infraction. He pulls my client over. Then he says that my client had bloodshot, watery eyes and slurred speech, and he had difficulty getting out his driver's license. And I'm like, okay, my client is telling me that that's not the case.
Sometimes our clients lie to us about that, but
sometimes they do.
But so we
have a different
want to
perception.
see the video.
But I got to see the video.
We always want to see the video.
So I look at the video, and he did have tag lights, and his taillights were not smoked out. And whenever he pulls over, he immediately begins to completely articulate why he is where he is, tells the officer that his driver's license is inside of his lunchbox because he's just getting off work, asks him if it's okay to get it, grabs it, pulls the license out, sets it on his leg.
It took like a second. You're nervous when a cop pulls you over.
He didn't even seem nervous.
He didn't seem like.
But he didn't fumble with anything.
He didn't fumble too much, but like maybe a little tense.
Dude,
like just the tiniest iota.
I was so pissed because he didn't slur anything. He didn't stumble on anything. And then this guy gets arrested, has to bail out, and then he has to pay me to get his case dismissed, which I guess it's better than getting a DUI. But at the same time, this cop flat out lied. He flat out lied.
Yes.
And then that brings us to what we're talking about here. There's a Metro officer conducting illegal stops
On the strip.
on the strip. So what he's doing is he's essentially singling out people that he thinks look like criminals, whatever that means.
In his mind.
And then he would shoulder bump them.
In plain clothes, too.
Plain clothes. So he's like a detective. And then he shoulder bumps them, and then he sees the other officers. He's like, go grab that guy. He's being aggressive. Pat him down. It's search incident to arrest.
Yeah. So he's charged with a few things, which these are abnormal things. I don't normally see these charged. Oppression under color of office with immediate threat or use of physical force, and subornation of perjury. So that's not just perjury. Subornation of perjury is trying to influence somebody else to make a false statement. So he was trying to force other police officers to maybe give probable cause affidavits saying, oh, no, he was aggressive. You saw him being aggressive, right?
Yeah, he bumped into this other officer.
He bumped into me, right? Like,
Yeah.
you need to write that.
Dude.
And so he's oppressing people while being a police officer. So these are both Category D felonies. I looked them up. So the penalty is 1 to 4 years on both of those.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just charged with this. So he's probably bailed out now. But
I'm sure. Yeah, and he's got no record, presumably because he's a police officer. But this is not good, and it's not a good look. And
no, it's a horrible look, and it's kind of getting glossed over a little bit. It was in the news for a minute, but this is
of course, it's going to get glossed over.
But the Metro doesn't want this in the news, and the city and state don't want this to be something. But this is one of those where we talk about investigative journalists. They want, because this is unique. This is weird. Like this should not be happening.
It's not as unique as you'd think.
It's not. Well, it's unique that there's a charge.
It's unique that he got caught.
And got a charge. Picked up these.
No. When they get caught, they get charged.
Yeah.
But they hardly ever get caught because nobody.
They don't want to turn on their own. They don't want to turn on their own because then they become the narc, right?
Yeah.
So.
And that's the interesting thing. It's like the police do kind of function a little bit like a gang in that sense, right?
I mean, it's a brotherhood. For sure.
Yeah, and I mean that's what all that stuff comes down to, right? It's us versus them.
They do have to protect themselves in that way too, though.
And their job sucks, no doubt about it.
And they get shot at, and we normally don't. You haven't for years anyway, right?
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's
unfortunately
Marines. No. Well, hey, we went out shooting and got shot.
Yeah, we did almost get shot recently. Oh, you're looking at no. So we went out shooting, and we were going down to that place that we go by Good Springs. On the
South
east side of the
15,
road, on the South 15.
The 7 Magic Mountains.
Well, they had it blocked off for some overraid race.
MIT 400 was going on.
Right. So
and
then
we didn't look it up.
Then we just go to Warzone Sloan, and we're like, oh, we're just going to go shoot some pistols and stuff. You know that spot right there where everybody shoots on the east side of the road that's just trash? So we park, and I'm at the back. I'm opening my tailgate, and I just hear that metal mosquito right over the top of my head. And I drop, and I'm like, bro, we're getting shot at. And everybody else is like, what are you talking about? And then all of a sudden, Shane hears, and sure as shit, this dude, he was shooting horizontal to us rather than parallel,
into
like an idiot.
A not very tall hill, like
right,
only like a 10
over the
foot hill, or it wasn't that tall.
But here's the problem:
he wasn't
keeping. He's the road. The road goes in like this and then splits. His is down here. Ours is up there, and he's shooting this way, knowing that there's a road directly where he's shooting at 40 meters away. And if that bullet came it had to have passed within a foot of my head. If I would have got hit in the head just going out to go shooting, I'd have been pissed.
Or dead.
Well, dead, but that's the point. I get to wherever it is that I'm going, if there is anywhere, I'd be very frustrated, right? Out of all the dumb things I've done in my life that definitely should have resulted in my death that I did not die from, just being literally standing in the 4 inches of space in the desert that you didn't want to be in at that moment. Ugh. It sucked.
Screw you, Forerunner drivers. That's what I'm going to say.
No, I don't know. I like Forerunners. I think they're pretty cool.
They're cool.
They are pretty cool.
But if you have a Forerunner and an AR,
if you're going to go shooting in the
and
desert,
you listen to this.
If you're going to go shooting in the desert, be safe. Don't shoot where there are vehicles. But yeah, hopefully this police officer, it comes out what's happened, and all the people that he's done this to are able to have their convictions overturned, which they have a list. He'll be in all event numbers. There's going to be cases that are getting reviewed. Which, it sucks for the state and it sucks for the police, but ultimately maybe this will help them better themselves.
The prosecution gets the final, push, I guess, in what to offer them as a deal, right? And that's rough. I don't know if you saw this one, but recently there was a news of a gang of, well, not a gang, but I guess a group of 4 kids who beat another high schooler to death.
Here?
Yeah, and
Jesus.
they just got sentenced, and they all got to stay in juvie. They all stayed in juvenile, so
they got 3 months of camp.
None of them are going to do really any time.
No, they're good. And when they turn 18, the records.
Yeah. So the mom of this, now dead son, cried out in court after it happened and said, this is
How old were the
not
kids?
harsh enough. They're in their teens. They're, I think, 14. I don't know the exact ages.
So with certification, we talked about this. They'd have to be under 14.
they didn't get. Well, we can look this up and talk about it
Sure,
in the
but
second
they
part of
beat
the
him
episode.
to death. Do you know how long you got to beat somebody to beat them to
And
death?
it's hard because we've talked about, hey, when there's multiple people involved, to pinpoint, you got to put the crime on one person.
Do you?
Well, if I guess in a
Were
death
they-
case,
if they're all involved, and
if
you're
they all
hitting them-
throw a punch and he ends up dying, yeah, then that's
Is it a partition or is it a?
that's felony murder at least,
yeah,
right?
for sure. Anyway,
Because you're committing a battery,
all right.
and so
So let's get to our listener question so that we don't get off topic. But hopefully the police are able to make some palpable change on this one.
Yeah.
It's not great. These situations are real bad. These guys are supposed to serve and protect, and sometimes they don't do that.
and it feels bad just to get a dismissal for a DUI case. What does that do in the future?
Nothing. And it really irks the crap out of me because, I'm sitting here listening to my client, and he's telling me that did not happen. And then, I look at it and I'm like, you're right, it didn't.
We got to start a list of these cops where you see, okay, this case,
Yeah.
this cop did this in this
I'm
case.
going to definitely look at his body cam,
So
which I do anyway. But all right.
that was bad though.
Listener question. What qualifies someone as an expert witness, and what role do they play in the courtroom? So you want to answer it from the civil perspective, and I'll answer it from the... Well, I mean, I guess it's
Sure,
the same.
they're
It's the
pretty
same.
similar. So an expert witness has studied in a specific kind of subsection of something that can assist in a case. It could be
They always
basically
studied? They have to study every time?
they don't have to study, but they have to have a history with it.
Right.
Either work,
Training, education, or experience.
training, education, or experience. It can be education and work,
Daubert?
or it could Daubert. That's some French word, right?
No, I think it's Daubert.
Is it Daubert? Is that how you pronounce it? I
This
don't
is
know.
America.
This is America. Okay. We will pronounce the T in all words from now on.
Yes.
So-
Sorbet.
Sorbet.
I did it wrong.
You did it wrong right after you
Dirty
said it.
French words.
So it could be really anything. You see a lot of doctors in cases. So mental health, becomes a question in some cases. So you might want a psychologist to come and testify. For the battered wife syndrome case, there could be a psychologist saying, yes, their mindset is they are fearful for their life, like constantly, because they've been beaten up so much.
Yes.
So it would be reasonable for them to react that way. How do you know that? Well, I'm a psychologist. I'm familiar with this. I've studied this. I did research on this. I've counseled with a ton of patients on this. So it's somebody studied in a specific kind of subsection to be able to assist the jury. One of the elements is it has to assist the jury.
The trier
in deciding.
effect. Yeah.
So I have a quote I love that's, a person who really knows something, who really, really knows a subject matter, you can tell because they're able to dumb it down and
Right.
speak
Explain it
about
to a
it.
5-year-old.
Explain it to a 5-year-old.
Yep.
Simplify it and be able to explain it to a 5-year-old. So we get these in cases on injury cases.
Mm-hmm.
A doctor saying, yes, this car accident did hurt them. Yes, they do need this surgery because
They can't say
of the
that.
accident.
They can say that the surgery is causally related, but they can't say that the car accident hurt them.
Whatever. These injuries weren't here before.
They aren't here. They weren't here before. They're here now. Car accidents cause these kinds of injuries, and they weren't caused by anything else.
So it can really be, anything. You see valuation experts. Somebody, we watch.
Present value and all that. where they-
Yeah. So if you get these guys, Pawn Stars, who are next door to us, they have these experts.
I know
all the
a guy.
time. Yeah.
Shake my hand 46 times in a 3-minute episode.
They're all these people are in Vegas. They're able to value things, and they can come. They could be experts. They could be qualified as experts to say,
You could be an expert in anything.
yeah, if somebody steals, a baseball card from you, you might need a baseball card expert to say what the real value of
is,
is
yeah.
that.
Like,
So-
I'm thinking of regular people. Like, I know dudes who are my age that would be an expert in, You could use them in a case where a company was welding something and the thing broke and hurt someone. I've got friends who could be an expert on welding.
Yeah.
Right? They've done it for 25 years. They got a certification when they were 7 or 19. They've been on the road. They know what pipelines are like. They're like, oh, this weld was done wrong, and here's how you can tell. So you can have experts in anything.
So there are more of the prototypical experts of the doctors, as I explained. But there could be, it depends on the case. Everything
I had a
has
trampoline
its specific
expert
thing.
once.
A trampoline expert
For that hardcore parkour case when I was with Hoff and Fow.
Yeah.
That they got a $10 million verdict on. The one that I wrote the spoliation motion.
Yeah, I know.
We spoliated him.
Yes.
Very excited.
Yes.
But yeah, it was super weird to go do a trampoline inspection in Colorado with a trampoline expert, and his experience was that he helped write some of the safety rules for trampolines, for like how they should function and stuff. And he started in college, and then he was on the Olympic team.
So, I mean, it could be anything. If you have like a tattoo injury, you might have like a tattoo artist that can say, no, like the person did this wrong. When I prepare tattoos, I clean everything. I do this, whatever it is. You can have an expert in anything as long as it fits the test of they're specialized. They have the study or practice in that area, and it helps the jury.
Shout out at Kip Jones who he definitely did these right. Just saying.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Aged in Oak, Sunset and Pecos for all your tattoo needs. Please tag him at the bottom of this.
So what role they play in the courtroom is a little different than other witnesses. They are only supposed to testify about, their specific subsection. And they write up reports, but the jury only hears the testimony. They don't hear the report. So it's just specific to their expertise. That's what they're supposed to testify about. And they come to the trial, and they're either hired by the plaintiff or the defense normally, and they come to testify and help convince the jury of...
Help the jury understand things so they can come to their own conclusion.
Yeah, sure. Sure. They're hired by plaintiffs or defendants.
Yeah,
so,
they're there for one side or the other.
They're there for to help somebody do something or help the jury understand.
Yeah, sure. And it's just a battle of the experts, and it comes down to the storytelling and the convincing. What does the jury believe is more likely than not?
So it's a decision on the parties. You have to pay the experts, and experts are expensive.
And sometimes be very expensive.
Yes. No,
especially doctors. $15,000 a day for trial testimony if it lasts more than 4 hours.
It's a price. It's not to pay for their testimony. It's to pay for their time and shutting down their offices, okay?
It's not the time spent doing the thing. It's the years spent learning it.
It's the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, we're all still dear friends. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, episode 18 listeners.
Like, subscribe.
You'll see us in these same clothes.
Updoot.
Next episode, maybe?
Yeah, because we're going to start recording in 2 minutes.
Love you all. All right, guys. First part of our 2-part episode. We got Daytona, Florida, which is about an hour from the events of the suitcase killing and about an hour and 20 minutes from Disney World. This was the closest that I thought made sense for this one. So this is Daytona, who are normally the Tortugas, but they play a few games as the Rumberos, which means partiers, and it's a couple of drums. So super fun hat, got some pink involved. So good representation of the partying going on in the Orlando area. Thanks.